Thanks for joining. Today, we're going to welcome back Ross Bryant, our head of research, where we're going to talk about our Q2 research report. Thanks, Ross, for joining.
Thank you for having me.
So there's been some news that's been happening internal to Phylum today, and we got a whole bunch of data to go through. Tell us about what's going on.
So we wrote up an attack blog post last month for an attack we saw around June 11th that was definitely more sophisticated than what we'd seen before. So we published that in June, and just within the past day or two, GitHub has confirmed that this wasn't just another set of script kiddies. This was a much higher level operative, and maybe at the end of this we can go into the details that we already have in our report about it.
Awesome. I know spam was like a really big problem we saw in Q1.
Yes.
And one of the interesting things is seeing how attackers kind of move through how they change tactics and how, what works, what doesn't work, and then watching their behavior through the analysis of the data. What's happening with that now?
So as far as we can tell, the huge amount of spam that was happening mostly on NPM, but also on PyPI, has really gone back to pre-Q1, early Q1 levels. In fact, I think I've got a slide here that can kind of contextualize Q1 and Q2. What you're looking at here is daily packages in our data for just NPM. And these specifically are namespace packages from the beginning of the year to about early June. And this is just a simple count of how many packages were published. So you can even see the Monday through Friday weekend periodicity kind of in here. But this sort of represents a natural ebb and flow of normal package cadence that are getting published. This would be like at Microsoft, at Amazon, and then there are other packages. So this kind of gives us a baseline of activity. I believe we've got a
so with namespaces is like, when I see those, I most attribute those to like a company or like a group, but how does that like exactly work with this is different for NPM versus PyPI, right?
Yes, that's right. PyPI does not have namespaces right now. I know that in conversations I had with some of the team at PyCon this year, they're talking about it, but they don't have it yet. It's really namespaces are an NPM thing. I mean, other package managers have other namespacing type things, but specifically, when you see at something / package name, that's the namespace in NPM.
Right. So then jumping to that next slide you talked about.
Yeah. So what's in yellow here are all the non-namespaced packages from over the same time frame. And as you can see, the stacked bar graph, it still just counts. So this would represent all of the packages published on NPM on any given day. And for the first most of Q1, it looks like about the same cadence of packages until you get to right at the end of March, beginning of April, when there was just this huge flood. I mean, just dwarfing by orders of magnitude the number of normal packages being published. So over a span of about a couple of weeks there, NPM and PyPI2 really had a problem with people publishing just garbage and doing it clearly in an automated way so that they weren't even having to really try. Like there was just some script that was, we actually saw all different kinds. We saw some people register a single name and publish 80-some thousand packages under that one name, username. We also saw some that just for every single unique package, they just had a burner account for everyone and they were just registering a brand new account. And then we saw something that was a little more sophisticated than either one, where somebody would register an account, publish a few dozen packages, and then not use that one again. So they were getting a little more juice from their squeeze from registering a new account. But as you can see, it clearly tapered off in the first couple of weeks, first half of April. And we suspect that it's something that NPM did on their end. We don't really think it's plausible that the spammers just got tired and took their ball and went home, that NPM did something to make it harder for people to register accounts so easily and then spam out a bunch of these packages. And the spam was of a wide variety. This wasn't just a single actor, but it seemed like once people caught on that this was a thing to do, lots of people started doing it for lots of different reasons.
Interesting. Yeah, you start thinking about like how to automate that total process. Like if my NPM account's a little older now, but if they don't have like a CAPTCHA on it or something where you can just script creating new accounts, that could be trivial just to make that spam effort easier. But yeah, it's interesting to see the patterns here. Just in the Monday through Friday, you can literally see the like when people are working versus when they're going home.
Yeah, and it's interesting because again, in these conversations that I've had with these security teams that are trying to do something about this, they fully realize that whatever friction they add to make it more difficult for the spammers, you're also making it more difficult for the legit users. And that there is a tension between how high do you raise the bar to where it gets so difficult that it becomes a hindrance on good actors and good behavior. And that's not an easy one to solve. It's.
I mean, that's the game of security, right? Like in a nutshell, how do you defend without making it impossible to use at the same time? But the open source package maintainers definitely have a challenge in their hands because of the expectation of developers, right? Like they've built up a expectation of how this is supposed to work. So changing everything out from under them really isn't an option. But it is interesting to see how the attackers, the game of how many people are actually running the package registry versus how much work does it take for an attacker to overwhelm them, right? That's just the theme we keep seeing. Yeah, very cool.
Yeah, so it's definitely an arms race.
Yeah, that would like reminds me of like the PyPI situation that happened the last month or two. We had some data on that as well, right? Like, how did that work?
Yeah, so almost simultaneously, there was an attack going on that's actually detailed at the end of our Q2 report, where an actor was basically respawning his malware. My guess is, when you register a new package to PyPI, it gets its own web page. If that package gets taken down for some reason, and you try to go to that page at 404s or says, hey, sorry, we don't know what that package is. And so it'd be trivial to set up a mechanism to where you just look to see whether or not is your package still alive. And if it's not, go create a new persona, rename your malware, respawn it. And we detailed this. This actually happened. And in fact, just today I saw on one of our Slack channels, this character seems to be back with the same MO. So I want to dig deeper in to see just how much they actually changed their behavior. But it is difficult to keep up with this level of automation. And so I think what you're referring to is over the weekend in May when PyPI announced we're shutting down all new accounts.
Right.
Full stop. And that lasted for a little over a 24-hour period. And it really was by virtue of the fact that their team is so small and that this was coincidental with us saying, hey, look, as soon as we send you a package and you take it down, we see this actor come back in just a few minutes. We can keep playing this whack-a-mole game all day, but I don't think it's worth either of our time. And in the middle of that, they said, look, we're overwhelmed. We got people on vacation. We only have so many cycles to man the fort here. So we're going to put a hiatus on that. And that also got the conversation rolling about getting two-factor authentication set up for PyPI accounts.
Right.
And I believe they've targeted by the end of the year that two-factor authentication will be required on PyPI accounts from this point forward. And this is beside all of the subpoena actions that were happening against PyPI that they also mentioned on their blog. Evidently, some law enforcement entity subpoenaed some of their data because of, I presume, a victim of one of these campaigns was actually pursuing legal action, which, again, that's not a silver bullet, but it is not nothing if there's jurisdiction and there's
right. I mean, this is like attacks are happening and companies are getting harmed, and they're trying to find recourse in some way, right? And yeah, it's definitely a challenge for not just the package registries, but then people that are consuming that to figure out, did I get hit by that too, right? Like this is one of the themes that we have about open source is awesome, but it is untrusted code from strangers. So it's something we always talk about keeping in mind. So one of the other themes that we've been seeing a lot, and I know I get asked a lot of questions about this, is like AI and ChatGPT and writing code and writing malware and making it easy to write malware.
Yeah.
And I've had my own little soapbox about my opinions on ChatGPT writing malware. Like when we see the stuff, the packages I've personally cracked open and read the source code for, like you don't need AI for that. It's like Tonka toy trivial in most cases. Um, like the attacker has like command execution. It's not really hacking. It's running a command on someone else's computer in a way that they didn't expect.
That's right.
But what are you seeing in the data from like AI and things that might be coming from LLMs like ChatGPT?
Sure. So, first and foremost, plenty of packages being published around the hype, or not even, I mean, not just the hype, not only malware, but people saying, "Hey, here's a API or my little bot to go chat with ChatGPT or make ChatGPT talk with." So people are writing code around that, and sometimes we'll see malware with that in the name, the LLM this or ChatGPT that. Um, so in that sense, yes, AI is alive and well to the malware authors as a hype thing. And in 6 months, when the next hype thing is there, they'll be doing the same thing. What I haven't seen any data for yet is precisely what you're talking about, which is, you know, you're never going to get a piece of source code that says, signed by ChatGPT,
Right.
but nothing that seems to really be indicative of, I don't even want to say sophisticated malware, just anything written in an automated fashion beyond, Loris Ipsum type word garbage,
Right.
which I've seen in some of the spam packages. That could be plausible that was maybe AI generated, but that's just a block of words. That's not code.
Yeah.
Some of the experiments that we've done with ChatGPT, simple ones like, "Dear ChatGPT, please take hello world in Python and write an obfuscated version for me that runs." And you'll get a big blob of code that looks, wow, that's really cool. And then you try to run it, fails. And after running a few experiments like this, we kind of came to the conclusion that since this is a language model, presumably for certain kinds of languages, it doesn't yet have the sophistication to know when the thing that it wrote doesn't run or doesn't do what the prompt said it was supposed to do. And until that happens, I'm not saying it'll never happen, but until that happens, I'm not really losing a lot of sleep over it. But I'm sure there are plenty of people out there who will say AI is going to write code. I mean,
Right.
to me, the difference between these image generation or music generation or something that is being interfaced by a human, eyes, ears, I can see something that looks like the thing that I wanted you, even if some of the colors are a bit distorted or even if some of the stuff is a bit muddied, the criteria of acceptance is what I see. The computer is much more punishing, right? You miss a semicolon, you drop a close parentheses, or you just put in some syntax that looks to the naked eye like it should be code, computer's going to barf and just say, nope, sorry, syntax error, runtime error, divide by zero, whatever. So until I see real evidence that bar has been overcome on a regular, repeatable, sustainable basis, I don't think there's much to worry about today.
Yeah. Yeah.
The next quarter, we'll see.
Yeah, like the hockey stick of development is interesting there. Like it's just been exploding for the past year. Um, it one of the things I find most interesting about this is kind of like the attacker marketing, like in a marketing sense of like there's been hypes around certain things, especially in the security area. Like when Log4j came out, like 90% of security marketing shifted to how Log4j, their product somehow, solves Log4j.
Right.
Or when zero trust became a term, right? Then everything was zero trust. And just like marketing groups that kind of like finding something to jump on the hype of, attackers are doing that now too, right? And it's interesting also in the open source realm, because if you follow hype and interest, you can deduce, like, to some degree, people will search for this thing. How do I make my search results pop up? And open source packages are one of those things that, like, targeted at developers. It's an interesting endpoint to that.
That's right.
Yeah, very cool.
Yeah.
Okay, so looping back to the earlier bit of the attack that we found, I know we're getting some more data and excited to collaborate, but yeah, give us some more background on that.
Sure. So we found some malware in on June 11th, and we wrote a blog about it. That one published on the 23rd last month, and it was a pretty sophisticated two-stage attack. The details will be in our research report, but it made us take notice because it was really definitely a level or two up from most of the malware that we regularly come across. That really is just copy paste variations on some simple theme, not very sophisticated, full of errors. This one seemed to really be trying to do a better job of thwarting not just analysis, but being able to find where's the malware in this thing. There was, like I said, it was a two-stage thing. And so we wrote it up, and it was a good write-up. It got some good traffic to it. But a couple days ago, GitHub wrote a blog dated the 18th. Yeah, July 18th, where their independent research found the same malware. They credited us, but they were able to take it a step farther, and they tied it to what Microsoft Threat Intelligence calls Jade Sleet. CISA calls it Trade Trader, but they're North Korean actors. And so there's a CISA report from April that they link there detailing this particular actor. And I don't know what bottle of what I'm buying for each member of my team who helped find this, but this is a real feather in our cap, I think. I'm really excited about the fact that we were able to tackle this quickly, get it out there, get it to our customers and say, hey, be on the lookout. You need to make sure you don't have any of this. And that it was independently verified by GitHub. That was kind of exciting. So the details of the attack are in our report.
Yeah, that's I know we're still kind of unfolding some of that information. It's awesome to like, just because of our process internally, I know like we're looking for interesting malware. We see a ton of malware all the time. We're not going to talk about all the stuff, otherwise we'd never shut up. But when something interesting pops up, I know everyone gets excited because they're like, oh, there's an aberration here. So like, what are they doing? And that curiosity, and then having that link back to a more sophisticated actor is kind of validating to that process, right? And yeah, so to anyone listening or watching, we're going to be digging into this more with GitHub and trying to find some more data, and we'll definitely be coming back with some deeper analysis into this to see like how deep that threat actor goes.
Sure.
Awesome. Well, Ross, thanks again for joining and sharing the highlights of our Q2 research report. That'll be out very shortly here. And please take a look. And if you have any ideas or thoughts, leave a comment below.
Yeah,
Thanks for joining.
Thanks.